Came across a case that was reported on LBC, and the subject in this case was interviewed by Sheila Fogarty on LBC. So basically, this once again taps into the whole transgender issue and freedom of expression, which is becoming a very contentious subject. So what this involves, I'm not going to read out the whole report. I'll just summarize it and try and put a link to it. Basically, a man by the name of Harry Miller, a former police officer, had made some comments on social media. Um, I'm not sure what particular site it was, but he made some sarcastic comments, partly in response to the government, as he says, saying that there needs to be debate on this. Um, and some of these sarcastic comments included Sheffield lasses know what true girls are, something like that. And I was born a mammal, but I self-identify as a fish. So he was using sarcasm to address what he saw as the way the transgender issue is going now. And he's developed a group called Fair Cop. Because what basically happened was Humberside Police, in their wisdom, um, decided to investigate him at his place of work um, and this is the bizarre thing, for committing a non-crime crime. That is to say that they told him that he hadn't actually committed a crime, but he had committed some sort of hate incident. And this is very strange sort of terminology. Now, the good news, if it could be called that, I mean, it shouldn't have even come to this, was that he was cleared in the court of law, and the judge actually found that it was a complete waste of time on the part of Humberside Police, and it didn't even reach the foothills of transphobic hate. Um, but and during this investigation, apparently, Homicide Police told him they cited the Stephen Lawrence case over his supposedly transphobic comments. So they're actually making an analogy with an infamous racist murder of a young black man to some sarcastic tweets about the transgender issue, in which he didn't even attack any individuals. Sheila Fogarty asked, did he have any regrets about it? He said he didn't, because he wasn't targeting any individual people. He wasn't bullying any individuals. And he did say that this has a chilling effect on the trajectory of where we're going. I mean, it's Orwellian. Um, he said, these things were deemed by Homicide Police as being evidence of hateful transphobia that might well end up leading me down the criminal pathway similar to that ended up with Stephen Lawrence, the murdered lad at the bus stop. So it seems to be they were warning him that he's somehow comparable to the racists who attacked Stephen Lawrence. But it's just there's other issues around this. The court actually acknowledged that this was an attack on freedom of speech and berated the force involved, Humberside Police, for investigating this. Um, I mean, what he rightly points out is if we cannot debate contentious subjects, what sort of society are we going to become? He mentions that he uses satire and comedy. Now, whether people agree with his particular style or not, here's the thing: if you're a transgender person, you have a choice with those sort of comments. You can either debate with him, you can criticize him, or you can ignore the comments. But to go to the police, I think it is totalitarian and it's chilling. When we live in a society where really gratuitous crimes do occur, you know, knife thugs are running around, we have terrorist attacks, and there probably are violent attacks against transgender people as well, and there are homophobic attacks like the lesbian couple who were attacked on the London bus. Those are the sort of crimes that need to be really cracked down on hard. But this tendency that we've been seeing recently for certain forces to crack down on thoughts. I mean, what the hell is a non-crime crime? That's actually what he was presented with. That's what the terminology was, in that he hadn't actually committed a crime, but they were treating it as such. In fact, he couldn't even explain what it was. No one can. and that is troubling because it shows it's ripe for abuse. Um, so there was a transgender activist. I'll just get their name up. Um, just bear with me a second because I've been looking at this case from several different sources. Um, I just think that when it comes to the transgender issue, there is a totalitarianism that is at play here that is really it's troubling. Um, I want to get this name because, like I say, I'm looking at different sources here that it doesn't mention this on the LBC source. Yeah, Helen Belcher, who co-founded Trans Media Watch, said, "I think trans people will be worried that this could become open season." So she, and I'm using the preferred pronoun, is suggesting that because he was cleared of a hate crime because of these tweets, and somehow that's going to provoke transphobic hate. I think that is very dubious claim. I would suggest that it's trans lobby, people like her, who are trying to get people criminalized for their opinions. That is the real worry here. Um, I mean, I would say to Helen Belcher, if you don't like what he said, why don't you just debate with him? You know, why don't you get into a debate or criticize them or something like that? But to actually support a police investigation, it is chilling. If we're now getting to a situation where biological women cannot be cannot even say that biology matters without being accused of being transphobic bigot, it's just I think the trajectory of this is very concerning. And I would strongly question those police forces who are investing their energies into thought policing, whether it's because they are trying to pander to the trans lobby, whether it's because they genuinely feel it's a priority, or whether it's because, frankly, they're taking these sort of crimes to be the easy approach over the harder sort of things. And I don't want to question the courage of any individual officers, but when you have, I mean, certainly the officers that went to his place of work, I would question that. So it's good that common sense has prevailed in the court of law, but there is still the trajectory of this, the trend that we're seeing is troubling. Um, and it's going to affect anyone who basically doesn't agree that someone who is biologically male is a woman. Anyone who has that opinion Anyone who has that opinion could find themselves in the future charged with a hate crime, even if they're not bullying a particular individual, even if they're not stirring up, trying to provoke violence against transgender people. If your opinion is like mine is, that someone born with a penis can never be a woman, then we're going to see a situation where you're going to be criminalized and you're going to be labeled a transphobic hate monger. And I just find that sinister. I really do. So it's good this judgment was what it was, but it is also troubling that it came to that. It's troubling that this man was investigated. And yeah, I agree with him. It is chilling. And it needs to be resisted. Common sense must prevail. Transphobic bullying is wrong. Of course it is. But there is legitimate debates to be had around transgender issues. For example, when we talk about so-called transgender children, now surely there's ethical and practical issues about having transition surgery at that age. So there's all sorts of issues around this that should be debated. And it should be done in a reasonable way, not in a way of bullying people. I would suggest that bullying is actually coming from the trans lobby, trying to forcefully silence people with threats of legislation. That's where I see the bullying coming from.